last train to Snowfield arrives after the town has already gone quiet. Its windows glow warmly against the snow, and inside, every passenger seems to carry a little pocket of evening with them. Tonight, you are simply here to ride with them. Slowly, gently, all the way into rest. Long after the daylight had faded from the roofs of the town, and long after the little station clock had become the brightest thing on the platform, the last train to Snowfield arrived under a sky full of slow, pale stars. It was never a busy train. It was not meant for crowds. It was meant for people carrying warm scarves, small parcels, books with folded pages, and the kind of tiredness that asked only for a quiet seat and a dark window. On winter nights, it moved with a special kind of calm. Its windows glowed softly, its doors opened without hurry, and when it came to a stop, it seemed less like a machine arriving and more like a long, warm room gliding carefully through the snow. That night, there were only a few passengers waiting to board. A woman in a wool coat held a paper bag that smelled faintly of cinnamon. A man with silver hair carried a flat parcel tied in blue string. A university student, already half asleep, held her ticket loosely between two mittened fingers. And near the end of the platform stood a child with a red knit hat, leaning sleepily against his father's coat, swaying a little every time the wind moved through the station lamps. No one spoke very loudly. No one ever did on the last train to Snowfield. The cold itself seemed to ask for gentleness, and the snow, which had begun just before evening, was still falling in small, soft pieces, quietly whitening the platform edge, the station bench, and the dark rails beyond. When the conductor stepped down, he checked the final tickets with the same patient expression he wore every night, as if he had long ago decided there was nothing in the world that could be improved by rushing. The doors opened. Warmth drifted outward, and one by one, the passengers stepped inside. The train's interior was lined with deep blue seats, soft lamplight, and windows that caught the reflection of every quiet face for a moment before giving it back to the dark. There was the gentle rattle of luggage being set down, the hush of coats settling against fabric, and the soft scrape of boots against the floor before everyone found their place. Near the middle of the carriage, a kettle-colored lamp glowed beside a little luggage shelf, and below it sat a woman who knitted as the train moved. No one knew if she rode the line every night, but somehow she always seemed to be there, her needles making the smallest clicking sound, as regular and reassuring as a clock in another room. The father with the sleepy child took a seat near the window. The child was asleep before the train even began moving. One mitten still curled around the edge of his red hat. The student leaned against the glass with her scarf tucked beneath her cheek. The woman with the cinnamon bag rested her parcel on her lap and closed her eyes for a moment, smiling at whatever warmth was folded inside it. Then, with a soft shiver of motion, the last train to Snowfield began to move. The station lamps drifted past first, then the sleeping shops beyond the square, then the final row of houses, where a few upstairs windows still glowed behind curtains, and smoke rose in pale threads from chimneys into the dark winter air. Soon the town was behind them, and the train moved out into open country, where the snow lay smooth over the fields and the fences appeared and disappeared like faint pencil lines in the moonlight. Inside the carriage, no one spoke. There was no need. The train itself had a language of its own, the low hum beneath the floor, the steady rhythm of wheels meeting rail, the occasional soft shift as it passed over a junction, the whisper of warm air coming from hidden vents below the seats. It was the sort of motion that made thoughts loosen their grip, the sort of rhythm that told the shoulders to drop, and the breathing to slow, and the eyes to rest a little longer each time they closed. Outside, the landscape unfolded in slow winter scenes. A farmhouse standing alone beneath a dim porch light, a frozen pond reflecting one piece of moon, a row of dark fir trees holding snow in their branches, a little bridge over a narrow stream, where black water moved beneath thin silver edges of ice. The woman with the knitting looked up now and then, as if counting familiar landmarks in the dark. The conductor moved once through the carriage, quiet as a librarian, gently adjusting a half-closed curtain beside one of the windows so the draft would not reach the sleeping child. Then he disappeared again toward the front, where the engine lights stretched softly over the rails ahead. Farther along the line, the train passed through a village so small it almost seemed imagined. There was a chapel with a snow-covered roof, a baker's van parked crookedly beside a fence, and 3 lamps burning in a row along a narrow road that led uphill into the dark. The train did not stop there. It simply passed through, its warm windows gliding over the snow, its quiet passengers carried onward. The student had drifted fully asleep by then. The father leaned his head back and closed his eyes too, while the child breathed in small, even breaths against his sleeve. The woman with the cinnamon bag looked out the window, watching the snowflakes catch and vanish in the outer light, as if the night itself were gently folding and unfolding around them. At one point, the train curved along the edge of a hill, and for a minute, the whole valley opened below. There, in the distance, were the first lights of Snowfield. Not many, just enough. Golden dots gathered close against the dark, with one brighter lamp near the station and another farther up the hill where the inn always kept its sign lit through the night. No announcement was needed. The regular passengers always seemed to know when they were near. Scarves were straightened. Parcels were lifted. One by one, people returned quietly from the warm edge of sleep. By the time the train eased into Snowfield Station, the snowfall had become even finer, like soft ash from an invisible winter fire. The platform there was small and almost completely white, except for the narrow brushed path leading toward the road. Two lamps glowed above the station sign, and beyond them, just visible through the drifting snow, stood the inn with its amber windows and a porch light that made everything around it seem kinder. The doors opened. Cold air entered, clean and still. The passengers stepped down one by one, not with reluctance, but with the calm understanding that every warm journey ends by delivering someone gently home. The woman with the knitting tucked her yarn away. The student pulled on her gloves. The father lifted the sleeping child into his arms, red hat and all, and carried him into the snowy quiet beyond the lamps. The woman with the cinnamon bag held it close as she crossed the platform, leaving behind a brief, soft trail of winter breath. In another minute, the train was nearly empty. The conductor checked the last carriage, closed the doors, and stood for a moment beside the engine while the steam drifted around his coat in pale clouds. Then he climbed aboard once more, and the last train to Snowfield moved slowly away, slipping back into the winter dark as quietly as it had come. Soon even its lights were gone. Snowfield Station was still again. The lamps hummed softly. The snow continued its steady, patient fall, and along the narrow road beyond the platform, the passengers made their way home toward porches, stoves, waiting blankets, and the deep, easy silence of sleeping houses. Above them, the stars remained where they had always been, quiet over the fields, quiet over the tracks, quiet over the roofs of Snowfield, as if they too were keeping watch until morning. And for a long while, it felt as though the whole little town, from the inn at the hill to the station at the edge of the snow, was drifting together